Okay, welcome back to the second part of our talk about money. So we left it off in trying to figure out, to define what money is. Well, in order to be considered to be money, the asset needs to satisfy three criteria. One, it's got to be a medium of exchange, and I'll go over what each one of these are in a moment. The second criteria, it's got to be a store of value. And third, it's got to be a unit of account. So anything that fits these three criteria, medium of exchange, store of value, unit of account, would be considered to be money. Now, the most familiar form of money, cash, paper money, and coin, fit these three criteria, but there are other assets that fit these three criteria, so there is more than one type of money. So let's take medium of exchange. Well, this is the criteria that most people associate with money. In other words, you could use it to buy goods and services, and you can use it to pay off debt. Because we don't have to barter to get things done, and we could use money to buy things, it allows us to specialize in professions. For example, I'm an economist. I don't need to do a little bit of farming, a little mechanical work, or a little bit of uh, you know gardening in order to get things done. I don't have to be a jack of all trades. I could specialize in my profession. If I'm compensated in for with money, I could then buy the goods and things that I need rather than trade for them. So this is a very important function of money, a medium of exchange. Now, what about the other one? Unit of account. Well, this is a way for us to measure the value of goods and things, goods and services in the uh, industry, in the economy. For example, you know what the value of a Subway sandwich is. It's $5, right? $5 foot long. If we were bartering, then you could say, okay, one Subway sandwich is worth 3 tomatoes. Um, but what if you didn't have tomatoes? Well, someone says, okay, I would be willing to accept one chicken for a Subway sandwich. So now one Subway sandwich equals one chicken, and it equals 3 tomatoes. So what we can do is we can keep going on and on and on, trying to find equivalent values in a barter economy, which makes things very, very complicated. For example, if one Subway sandwich equals 3 tomatoes and equals one chicken, does that mean one chicken equals 3 tomatoes? Not necessarily. So you could see how difficult it would be to assign value in a barter economy. When it comes to money, it's easy to say one Subway sandwich equals $5. And you could use that $5 to assign value to tomatoes, to chickens, to anything. So it allows us to reduce transaction costs. In other words, think of the pricing board if we for a good if we had um, bartering. It would be huge to list all of the different types of transactions that would take place in a barter economy. Now, the other criteria, store of value. This means when you work and earn money, you don't have to spend your money right away because your money retains the value of your labor over time. If I'm paid $100 for my economics lecture, I could wait a week before I spend that money, and I could basically buy the same amount of goods and services if I wait a week. So can you see how money, in this instance, stores the value of my labor over time? It's not a perfect store of value, but it retains most of its value during short periods of time. Now, there are two types of money that are commonly discussed. One is called commodity money, and think of gold coins. Gold coins is a commodity money. Then there's another type of money called fiat money. Paper money that you have in your pocket or coins that you have in your pocket are fiat money. What's the difference between fiat money and commodity money? Well, commodity-based money is a type of money that has some sort of value outside of its use of money. For example, a gold coin can be used as money, but gold can also be used for jewelry or to conduct electricity in electronics. So you can see how gold has value outside its use of money. Fiat money, on the other hand, its only use is as money. So the paper dollar bill, the paper itself has very little intrinsic value outside its use for money. So fiat money is only used for money. Commodity money could be used for money or it could be used for other things. Now, what about credit cards? Are credit cards considered to be money? No. Credit cards are basically a loan. When you use a credit card, basically the bank is loaning you money and you're going to be paying it back. So debt is not considered to be money uh, in uh, in general terms. So how do we measure the money supply? Well, we usually measure money based upon something called liquidity. Now, liquidity, most people say it's the if something is more liquid, it means that it is easily turned into cash. I don't really like that definition because cash is another type of money. So my preferred definition of liquidity is the ease in which an asset is converted into goods and services. So think about cash, coins, and paper money. It's easily converted into a good or service. Now think of a a home. A home is an asset, but a home is a very illiquid asset. It's very difficult to convert that into goods and services in terms of it takes time. So the easier it is for you to convert an asset into a good or service, the more liquid it is. So the most liquid forms of money, we call them M1. So M1 is a classification of money, and everything in M1 is considered to be liquid. For example, uh, paper money and coin currency is very liquid. That's part of M1. Another type of money are traveler's checks. That is considered to be very liquid. It's easily to convert it into goods and services. Demand deposits, that's another name for checking accounts. Checking accounts um, are considered to be very liquid. It's easy to convert that to goods and services. There are other types of money that are less liquid, and we group them into M2. Now, M2 includes M1 plus other forms of money that are less liquid. For example, small denomination time deposits. We call these CDs. Uh, CDs worth less than 100,000 certificates of deposit are considered to be uh, part of M2. Savings accounts are considered to be part of M2. Money market mutual fund deposits, part of M2. Now, let's look at, here's a nice little graphic here. So currency, this is paper money and coin. This is in 2009. It was about $853 billion. So that's part of M1 here, and it's also part of M2. Then if you add checking accounts, that's about $792 billion. That's also part of M1 and part of M2. And then traveler's checks, only 5.2 billion. Now, this is all of M1, and that totals $1.6 trillion. Now, M2 is M1 plus savings accounts, and that's a whopping 4.4 trillion. And then money market mutual funds and small CDs. That's 2.2 trillion. Now, if you add up these two and these three, that gives you M2. This is the definition for the money supply for the United States, M2, 6.7 trillion dollars in 2009. Now here's a nice little graphic. Like I said, M1, the most liquid form, and then M2 is M1 plus some other forms of less liquid money. Now, some countries have a M3 classification, which is M1 and M2 plus some even less liquid forms of money. But basically, in 2006, the Federal Reserve, which is the United States Central Bank, stopped measuring M3. So, for all intents and purposes, the money supply for the United States is M2. So, does it matter if you follow M1 as a measurement of money or M2? Actually, it does, because M1 and M2 can behave differently. So here's a nice little graph that shows the growth or change in M1 and M2 over time. And as you can see, sometimes M2 is increasing and M1 is not increasing as much. And so depending upon what you measure could determine your outlook for the growth in money. So most people feel that um, it's it's more proper to follow the broader definition of money rather than the less liquid. So when economists try to follow the money supply, they tend to follow M2 rather than M1. Well, that's our talk for money, and now we're going to get on to other aspects of the financial markets and banking markets.